Good morning, this afternoon.
Oh, Grand Rising.
Hey, Brainy, Grand Rising, Victor, Elena, Judith, Ndungi. I see we are joined today by Rubidzai, who is just logging in. Rubidzai, welcome to the Breakthrough Challenge. James, James is just logging in.
Uh,
Um, I am waiting for my equipment to connect. I'm using a podcast kind of microphone, so sometimes it takes a couple of minutes
oh, okay. That's all
plug
right.
in quickly. Rumbidzai, Karibu, welcome to the Breakthrough Challenge. It should be okay within a minute or less. As soon as it's ready, I will fire it and we get going. I am very excited about this week. I am very excited about
Share
this.
the happiness.
Hmm. Hmm. This week, if we truly do the actual work that we are covering this week,
Yeah.
it will change something fundamental.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, um, There we are. I have the right microphone plugged in. Now it should allow me to put on the video. And there we are. And I'm on my other t-shirt today. I am ready to change my story. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with today. I am so excited about this week. And for your information, today is my birthday. So the more excitement.
Happy
And
birthday.
yes,
Happy
thank you.
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. We covered yesterday some powerful insights. What we did yesterday is remarkable. Don't take it lightly. Please keep reflecting on it and connect it to what we did on Monday on shame and guilt, then adding blame, brokenness, perfection, unlovedness. These are wounds we deal with all the time. But I spared today for us to look at a wound that is common to all of us, a wound that can leave almost permanent scars, and which we need to learn how to deal with and to recognize when it's happening and start dealing with it. This is the most immediate in terms of its impact when it happens. Shame, guilt, brokenness, feeling unloved, needing to feel perfect, and all those are the wounds we spoke about yesterday. Sometimes they take time to manifest, but this is one that manifests almost immediately. You feel it when it's happening. You feel it immediately. And it's one of the wounds that it's so important for us to learn how to recognize and how to remedy so that we can minimize the pain. We are speaking about rejection. We are speaking about rejection. Rejection can be of two types. It can be other people rejecting you or you rejecting yourself. But for the purposes of today, I want us to just cover being rejected by someone else or in some external situation, experiencing rejection from someone else. At some point, as we begin to do the identity mind frames, we will cover the internal components. But for now, being rejected by someone else, by somebody else. I want us to start with a very brief conversation, and I want you to be quick as you share and when you share. Have you, this is going to take courage. This is going to require courage for you to share, to feel open enough to share. Have you experienced rejection? If you could, if there is one rejection that stands out for you without naming whatever the people are that you felt they rejected you, what was the situation? And this is going to take courage. What was the situation and what did it feel like? If you could describe it in one sentence, what was the most heartful emotion that you felt? If you could crystallize that whole experience to one moment that was the most painful, what did it feel like? That's what we are looking for. What did did the rejection feel like? So I'm encouraging you. This one, we are going to hunker down. This is the actual work. We are going to hunker down and reach out for things that we probably haven't even processed. And that is the danger with rejection. If it's not processed, it festers. Rejection is a living wound. It takes ages for it to disappear. If it disappears, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm going to open the floor. We make it quick so that we can now cover the meat of what rejection is and some of the ways. I will share two or three very powerful but practical ways for you and I to start processing and get beyond any rejection we have suffered. So who would like to start us off? Brenny, let's go.
Grand rising, everyone. So I'll just go real quick to what happened to me over the situation. There were like two situations. One was about work, and it really made me, I really felt so broken. Like to an extent, I felt like I wasn't enough. And I'll relate to these two instances because they made me feel like I wasn't enough, I wasn't worthy, and I was just like useless. That's something that happened to me like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So that was my emotions, and it really broke me down to the bottom level of the sea. That was my emotion about that.
Yes. So the overall impact, that the resulting feeling is that I'm not worth it. But what if you could take the worst evening or worst night when that was happening? What did it feel like in your body? If you could put words to it, what did it feel like?
I can't even find the right word to describe it. That was like the night of a soul because it felt like someone was probably ripping your heart away.
Perfect. That's it. That's what you're looking for. That's what you're looking for. Because that's what we have to recognize, that rejection is very different from all the other wounds we suffer. Rejection carries a physical description. And when we cover the meat of rejection, you will see why it carries a physical description. Who would like to go next?
I would.
Thank you,
The
Elena.
floor is open.
It is.
Yes. So I have two particular incidences where I've experienced rejection. My first one was an internship with a multinational. That is the cream de la cream of working towards your careers. Then at the end of it, but I got sad news that they would no longer consider me for the position, and that really struck a nerve. In terms of how I felt, I had like there's something that is stuck in my throat, and that feeling that I need to prove to them that I'm worthy of that position, even if the chance to prove myself had passed. That's
Yeah.
how I felt at that particular role.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same incidents with, let's say, falling out with a particular group of friends. Let's say they just didn't feel that we were not in the same, we don't share the same ideals. So they may have felt that about me, but still, I, I I got to a point that I felt that I needed to prove to them that I am still worthy to be their friend, which is hardly the case. Sometimes you just have to accept things for what they are. And that's been my learning curve, accepting it for what it is and not having to prove myself because of a rejection.
Yeah, yeah. If you could think back to both situations and you just, you try and look inside and see what you felt, what is there a way you could describe it? Is there something that you can actually identify? Or an even easier way is there a part of your body that you can say that if that rejection was an item, this is the part of the body where it lodged? So either way, whether you know how it felt, or you could say it was here.
It's my throat and
Your throat,
my
yeah.
throat, something stuck in my throat.
So that's the thing, that rejection is almost a physical wound. Like you can localize it, and unfortunately, this is not something that is happening to you for the first time. You have felt rejected when you were way younger. Your body learned to localize it. It's the same way the body localizes physical wounds. When you have a wound on the skin surface, the body forms a thick layer of protection around it. And emotionally, the body does almost the same thing when it comes to rejection. Who would like to go next? I think we will proceed because of time, so that we.
I can go
Oh,
next.
go ahead. Go
Hi,
ahead.
Joe.
Hi, Rumbidzai. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well.
Okay.
Doing well.
All right. So for me, I think the most recent rejection was a really good friend of mine who I was thinking we were going to actually have more than just the normal relationship that we had. Like it was going to go deeper. And then he was showing signs. And then a week before, he just tells me that I decided to choose someone else. I decided to go out with someone else. And this is someone I've been like really good friends with for a very long time. So that to me was like my peak rejection because it was the second time that was happening to me. And yeah, it was a very painful time.
If you could localize, like, take the worst of those days or evenings, and what did it feel like?
I felt like what the other participants have said, the lump in my throat was definitely there. And it's like your heart just stops. You can't really breathe. You feel confused. Your appetite goes like out of the window and you just feel low. You just want to be by yourself. Even the processing in terms of the brain, you feel like numb almost.
Yeah. Thank you, Rumbidzai. Anybody else who would like to share? Let's go straight into covering the tenets, the meat of what rejection is. So when you suffer rejection, the difference between rejection and all the other forms of wounds that you suffer is that rejection is processed by the same part of your brain that processes physical pain. It's when researchers have tried to do brain imaging in somebody experiencing physical pain and somebody experiencing rejection, the same parts of the brain fire. In fact, in some experiments, when they give people painkillers like paracetamol or diclofenac, those people experience slightly less pain. The most stupid thing about rejection is that the size of the rejection does not correlate to the intensity of the pain that you feel. Here's an example. You are seated at the bus stop, and two people your age come by and they have a ball, right? And they are like, "Hey, do you like to play? Just a ball, throw it to each other," and you agree, right? I mean, we agree to be wherever we are, whether it's in the workplace or, but these are strangers. You don't know them, and it's a stupid game. Then, so you start throwing the ball. So the first one throws the ball to you, then you throw the ball to the third person to the first person to you, and then from you to the third person to the first person. Then the first person throws to the second person. And from there, they just throw it between themselves. They don't throw it back to you. It's a stupid game. It is meaningless. These are strangers. But you feel rejection. That's because rejection defies reason, it defies logic, it defies common sense. Some of the places where we have felt rejected, we feel rejected because there is a pattern that has already been formed. Let me just give you the four most painful ways. There are maybe 6 or 7, but let's focus on these 4. The 4 ways in which rejection really, really hurts us. Number 1, rejection causes emotional pain that is almost physical. So it is the emotional pain that results from rejection. And the unfortunate thing is that the emotional pain does not correlate with the size of the wound. Even when it is a prank, even when it's a prank, the emotional pain is still present. In fact, I was reading about an experiment where uh, in the people who were in the experiment, they were passing around a bomb that was about to detonate, a small bomb that was about to detonate, right? So the psychologists were trying to see whether if it's a bad thing that is being passed between people, would you feel bad to be excluded? And just not being involved, even if it's a bomb that's about to explode and kill you, you still experience the pain. And that doesn't make sense. I saw another experiment where people were placed in a situation of where they experienced rejection, and then they were after that told, no, it's just it was a prank. It doesn't take away the pain. The reason why rejection hurts the way it does is because 300 years ago, when there was no electricity, there were no modern homesteads, we lived in the forest among wild animals, we lived in small communities. If you were rejected, it means you are ostracized. You are removed from that small community. And being removed from that small community, those years meant you die because you will have no access to food, you will not have access to water, you will not have a mate to live with, you will have no protection. You will be out there on your own and you're surrounded by all these hyenas and lions and, and, and wolves, and you will die. So in other words, when you look at uh, the biological explanation for rejection, we evolved this as a protection mechanism so that we become very sensitive. We become very sensitive. We pick out environments where we are likely to be rejected really early, which is why after we've been rejected, it's in that moment, the parts of the brain that fire do not listen to reason. That's why you would find that emotional pain resulting from romantic rejection is extremely painful because it fires. This is pain happening after the brain has been fired positively. With expectancy, you are experiencing this very deep hope, but then suddenly another part of the brain fires up. So now your brain is confused. Are we protecting ourselves from what is going to happen, or do we still need to continue holding on? And this is why some of the most heinous acts that happen result in the context of a rejection, especially a romantic rejection. So the emotional pain you feel, it doesn't matter the size of the rejection. It doesn't matter whether it is true or merely perceived. The pain is processed the same way physical pain is processed. You can localize that pain if you are aware of what is happening. For example, from today going forward, if you experience a rejection, you can actually stand there. You are like, okay, so what am I feeling? And you can localize where that pain is. And your power lies in identifying when that is beginning to happen and doing something to soothe that wound and resolve that pain. We will see how you can resolve that pain. The second type, the second way in which rejection harms us is rejection causes us to go into anger and aggression. It causes anger and aggression. I'm sure you have heard of cases where a father has just woken up and killed everybody in his household. And a lot of the time, it has to do with a perception of rejection. Either he is suspecting that the wife is cheating, whether it's real or not, or the wife is about to leave and has declared that she's leaving. And the other way too, you've heard that this wife or this mother just woke up and killed her two children and set the house on fire. Maybe because the husband is not around, or if he's around, she poured hot water on him, or she got outside and she found his Range Rover and she worked on that Range Rover. By the time she was done, there was no car remaining. Anger and aggression. And that is for the same reason that rejection threatens our evolutionary survival. It's we had to belong to survive. So when rejection comes, it sets us in our worst behavior. Rejection sometimes locks you, it locks you in a groove where you want to isolate yourself. For example, let's not even go far. If you have ever broken up, that is not the time you are going to be showering up and showing up and dressing up and and going out. This is the time you're going to eat the most popcorn, to watch the most series, even the ones you hate. This is the time when you're going to spend the most amount of time alone at home, the most amount of time that you are not going to reply to calls where nobody will find you, right? It's because you are so angry, but you're not processing that pain. But unfortunately, what happens is rejection itself causes a physical pain. And then it sets us into anger and aggression. And unfortunately, that aggression it amplifies the initial wound that we experienced, which is one of the biggest reasons why you and I need to learn how to handle rejection, how to recognize it, how to process it. Because otherwise, it's rejection happened, we experience that initial pain, and then now it is as though we are on fire. And that's the time we are likely, if we are likely to make any mistakes, that's the time we are likely to make any mistakes. That is the time when people end up doing things that they have never gone out. Sometimes things that end up putting people in danger. I wouldn't ask about your personal experience regarding specifically this area, but you know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about because I know what I have experienced when this has happened. Every time there has been a school shooting in the United States, it is mostly someone who feels disconnected from society because they perceived that they have been ostracized. And a lot of the times when it's school going boys or girls doing it, it's because they have been ostracized in that same school. And usually when they come back with that gun, they are looking first for the person that led that ostracization. The third way that rejection harms us, rejection damages our self-esteem. Rejection damages our self-esteem. It's like kicking yourself when you are already down. You have already suffered one of the worst wounds, but now you are kicking yourself. You're trying to make sure that the pain is amplified so that it's as intense as as it can be. If there is a time, the reason why people end up taking risks that they ordinarily wouldn't take is because they feel worthless, they feel less than, they feel unworthy. If there is a time when shame, guilt, unlovedness, blame all come up, this is the time. If there is a time when you become extremely self critical, it's after you have suffered rejection. Somebody breaks up with you, and suddenly your brain starts creating a list of all your faults, of all the ways in which you do not meet that person's like, requirements, of all the ways the person they have chosen over you is better than you. And unfortunately, these are not just intellectual lists, these are things that you feel intensely in yourself. You feel each one of them, and the brain never shuts, it never shuts down. So it continues festering. Here you are, you're already experiencing emotional pain that is almost physical. You have been placed in a frame of anger and aggression, and now you are kicking yourself. You're kicking yourself at night, you're kicking yourself alone from any emotional support that could help you start to articulate and process and express the anger that you have, the pain that you are feeling. The fourth way that emotional pain resulting from rejection is that rejection threatens our sense and our need for belonging. It threatens our sense and our need for belonging. When we feel rejected, we lose our ability to rely and leverage our common sense and logic. We almost automatically want to isolate ourselves during that period. And in the process of isolating ourselves, we do not want to be in contact as much with the world. But then sometimes it lasts so long that the world moves on or stops reaching out. Your friends stop, they keep calling, and sometimes you are like, oh, they are calling me because they are laughing at me, or you process it from the colored glasses of dark emotion, where you suspect everything. You're self-critical to yourself, you're critical to everything that is going on around you. And unfortunately, that creates a gap. It creates a gap that draws you away from the support that you would benefit from, but it also makes you wonder whether you are worthy to benefit, to be helped, to get the support that you need. You become a person who needs other people, but who is not ready to accept the help that are giving. Your sense of belonging is a non-negotiable. Every time you have heard somebody say, I don't care, and every time you have said, I don't care, you are lying and they are lying. You care. You are wired to care. You must care. You will never stop caring. Right now, you care. Yesterday, you cared. You will care tomorrow. The question is, will you care about what matters? And will you be able to draw a line where to care and where not to care? When you are in pain, the automatic response is, I don't care. You care. You care, and you care deeply. And the vulnerability to realize that you care and that it's only the fact that you are in pain that is making you want to think that you don't care is the first step for you getting out of where you are. Because that is the breakage to our connectedness. There are 6 fundamental human needs. The first one is security. The second one is variety, or so predictability and unpredictability. Those are the first two. So security and variety, surprise, change, growth. Number 3 is significance, knowing that you matter. Number 4 is love and connection. You must be connected. You must belong to a family. You must belong to a social group. You must belong. If put the two together, love and connection. If you are loved at home, you are loved deeply, but you go to the work and nobody speaks to you for 2 weeks, you will be depressed. But if at work you are the hero, when you show up, people line up in the corridors with flags and they're clapping and ululating for you, and they escort you to your desk and you sit down and they sing the national anthem because you've arrived. You are the hero of the office, but when you go home, it is a cold house. You will be depressed. You care. You are wired to care about love and about connection. That is why rejection will matter. Rejection will hurt. Rejection will send you into fits of rage and anger. It will make you doubt your own self-esteem. It will be a physical pain that hurts the most when you are alone, sometime at night. And sometime when you thought you are over it, it keeps coming up. It keeps you afraid from reconnecting back to society. After you have had a romantic rejection, it is very scary to step out back, especially if you step out back and you're thinking you might give this person a chance, but then they start using the same vocabulary that the other person used. They want to take you to the same restaurant the other person went to. They like the same activities. They want to watch the same movies. They are reminding you triggers that connect you to the time that you are hurt. Let's just think about those 4 ways in which emotional rejection, in which rejection causes us pain, where it threatens our sense of belonging, it impairs our self-esteem, it damages, it kicks us when we are down. Anger and aggression, and it causes an identifiable pain that is almost physical. Do you, any of you, have any reflections about what we have covered? Any reflections or any contributions to what we've covered, very briefly? Maybe I'll just call a couple of you out. Let's start with James. Just any reflections?
Reflections. No, I can only just say that it's true, word for word. It felt like I was actually reliving a certain moment in my life. So yeah, I can only just say it's true.
Thank you, James. Judith?
I cannot really tell whether I've been in that situation, but I know I have, because like you find yourself trying to avoid rejection. Like you always want to do something that makes people like accept you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all I can say.
That's a fundamental need. Oh, we have to plug back in. Dungi?
First of all, happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
And rejection hits home so much because I have suffered from it. It has cost me a whole year of studies. And the only thing I can say is that we need to understand that we are social beings. And when you said the need for love and connection is non-negotiable, it hits home. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ndungi. What's your biggest takeaway so far in terms of, I'm asking the rest who haven't contributed yet. What's your biggest takeaway? If you could go away with one insight now, to think about, what would that be? Elena?
My biggest takeaway would be in the process of processing your own rejection, it is very important to remain plugged in. Your community would give you sense of reason when your faculties are not at 100.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, that is so important. Thank you, Elena. Victor?
Um, what I can say about rejection, uh, surely that thing is a painful thing,
Yeah.
and it can cause a wound that can last for even years.
True.
Um, I don't know. Is there a way you can prevent rejection in terms of someone who rejects you? Can you minimize the impact of it? Because sometimes
Yeah.
you say you need to belong somewhere, but if you are rejected everywhere you go, what do you do now? And
That's right.
that's really confusing, because if you don't know what to do,
Yeah.
it takes the life out of you. You do not know. You do not want to do anything on that. So if there's a mitigating measures
Yeah.
that when it happens, how should you handle it so that you can recover quickly? Because it destabilizes you, your work, everything that you do. You're no longer the same person.
Yeah.
And those effects are very dangerous, and I also don't like it. Anyway, this is a good topic that it's good you have discussed, and I would like to find those mitigating measures so that when it happens, when it do happens, you are ready.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why we are speaking about it. That what happens a lot of the times is rejection is happening to us, but we don't know that it's happening. And even if we know it's happening, we don't know what to do about it. And even if we know what to do about it, we don't end up doing it because we don't realize how impactful it could be. That some of the wounds, even small rejections leave, can last for a long time. Some wounds never heal. Some wounds, some people say, oh, time converts wounds to scars. Some wounds become bigger with time. They become infected. Some wounds shut people off. They change people's personalities totally. They cause people to hide who they truly are just because they suffered a wound way back. Yeah, so we will cover some of the ways that you can deal with this. We haven't heard from Rumbi.
Hi, Job. Thank you. Okay, so I think for me, what I mainly got was how I don't have to personalize it anymore, but I need to realize that it's normal and that it happens. And I should also learn how to find ways of healing from the whole situation, as you were highlighting that it manifests
Yeah,
in a physical way. So I think that's an area that most of us don't really know. We just
yeah,
think once I stop thinking about it that I'm healed, but then they could actually have been a lot of, physical damage that I need to then take time to actually ensure I get healed from. So I don't end up getting other diseases like maybe heart problems or stress or
yeah.
depression. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Rumbi. Absolutely. Actually, if you could add a couple of extra points. The tendency we have, number one, is we over personalize. We over personalize. A partner rejects you and you make it all about yourself. Maybe it's about the time you are ready to settle, this person is ready, or this person is ready to settle, you're not ready. So maybe it's about the time. Maybe it's about preferences. Those preferences will never change. She loves guys with beard, or he loves tall girls, and you're not. You're not going to change and become them, right? Or he has goals which are incompatible with yours, or he has a lifestyle that is incompatible with yours. You want a family, and he runs a business, is an entrepreneur, and he's all about his work. Or you want to advance your career, and he wants you to not continue with your career. So there are always, very, very rarely is it a personal issue about what you did. Very rarely. When there is an authentic chemistry and connection between two people, a lot of the time they are able to navigate whatever challenges they are. If somebody just, flips between two people who know each other. This person probably doesn't even know what they want, or this person has commitment issues. And now he has commitment issues. He is going to keep jumping. The person that they have picked over you, it's not like they are assured that this is going to be the person. And the next one, the next shinier thing comes along, they will jump onto that other person. So we end up over personalizing. The other thing we end up doing is over generalizing it. You get rejected romantically, and that rejection feels as if it's happening everywhere else. You stop going to church or to your social groups. If you have a chama, you don't go to that small group. You don't want to see your family. You don't want to go out with some of your friends. You show up at work and there's a social event in the evening, you don't want to appear there. It becomes, we over generalize. The other thing we do is we over exaggerate. We over exaggerate the rejection, right? We over exaggerate the rejection. You have no idea how he made me feel invisible. He didn't make you feel invisible. He just said that this is not going to work. But now you take it from what the words that he said, take it all the way. It's like, she said, I don't measure up. Measure up where? She didn't say you don't measure up in your work. She didn't say you don't measure up in your intelligence and in your skills. There is a specific thing, right? There's a specific thing that she's referring to. Maybe she's referring to how much money you've saved or whatever she's referring to. It's not, we end up over exaggerating it. And the other way is we make it seem and feel permanent. We make what has happened feel pervasive, permanent, like it's not going to change. It's going to always feel like this. And I don't know about you, but have you ever either been interested in or dated someone whom you sit down today and start doing the calculation, that business account is in loss? You're wondering, what was I thinking? But at the time you are in that situation, even your breath goes faster. That's the time when you shower the quickest, right? It's some of the places where we end up being rejected. That rejection sometimes is a win for you. I've seen some of these popular quotes that go around. For example, every rejection is a redirection. And there are situations where that's not true. There are situations where that is true. I'm not being rejected, I'm being redirected. And there are situations where I have been redirected. I exited from one of the employers in Nairobi, and that exit was what I had needed to take the next steps I would have needed to take. Because this employer does not like people who assert themselves and ask for what they want and say what they will not tolerate. By staying around, I was actually allowing myself to feel less than I am worth. But once I stepped there, I accessed opportunities which I would never have accessed if I had stayed with that employer. Some rejections are truly redirections. Let's start with the first way to deal with rejection. First way to deal with rejection is, number one, is counter-argument. Counter-argument. I would like you to write down 3 things you thought when your worst rejection happened. What 3 things came to your mind? What 3 things did you think about when your worst rejection happened? Just quickly jot those down. What 3 things came to your mind? And these are most of the time, these are personal things. Like, what did you feel personally responsible for? Because remember, we end up blaming ourselves. We end up feeling unloved. We end up feeling imperfect. We end up feeling less. That's why we find an explanation within. Did you know that when the family is not happy, the children in the house explain it using themselves? If, for example, the parents divorce, That little boy will be like, if I was a better boy, my father would not have left. And unfortunately, that becomes a pattern where we learn to blame ourselves. That little boy is not to blame. There is nothing that little boy could do that would make the father go. Even if he burnt the house, they would be angry, but eventually they would still love him, because that's how we are wired. Okay, so you have the three things that you thought about. Let's look at the first one. Is it something that you could counter argue about? The reason to counter argue about it is to minimize the overgeneralization, the overpersonalization, the over exaggeration, and the tendency to make it feel permanent. What would be the counter argument? The power of this exercise is soon after, or even immediately after the rejection has happened. So for example, when if you face a small rejection, let's say the example I gave you, you are at a bus stop and two strangers come by with a little ball, they're playing with each other, and then they're like, oh, join us. You join them, they throw the ball to you, they throw it, you throw it back, then they throw it amongst themselves and they exclude you. Then you are like, maybe they didn't like how I throw ball. That's why you start. Then you overgeneralize it. I always screw up simple things. Now it's no longer involving them. It is just you. And every time you have ended up looking at a rejection that happened and the other parties are not in the picture, it is now just you. You have over personalized it. And that is the best way to maximize the pain you feel. And of course, you will reap the reward, the yield of a long lasting wound that will keep giving you the profit of shame and blame and unworthiness and feeling unloved, feeling broken, which is the most common result from rejection, feeling broken. That's why we call it a heartbreak. Most heartbreaks are not heartbreaks. Most heartbreaks are the failure to meet expectations. Did they break your heart or did they break your expectations? And I think in romantic situations, unfortunately, a lot of the times we are not in love with the person. We are in love, but not always. But sometimes we are in love with the idea of the person. And when that idea starts being tested, especially with closer proximity, more time together, and then we start doubting ourselves. We think it is us because this person really must be equal to the idea that I had in my mind. So counter argue to remove the over personalization, counter argue to remove the over generalization, counter argue that tendency to make something feel permanent, to remove the exaggeration from that wound. Does anybody want to share just the counter argument? You don't even have to share what the rejection was and what the thoughts that came to you were. Does anybody want to share any of the counter arguments to your rejection?
I have one,
Okay.
a short one.
Mhm.
I am not everyone's cup of tea.
Yes. Yes, that's true. I'm not. You are not. You are not everyone's cup of tea. So if that helps you remove the overgeneralization, you are like me and guys who or ladies who do X, Y, and Z. This is and because that ends up lining up with your own standards and with your own preferences. So you are honoring your own uniqueness. It is okay for me to not connect. I don't have to connect with everyone. Just like I can't be a citizen of every country in this world. I will end up being a citizen of just this specific country. Yes, Elena, thank you. That is powerful. And I see it running around online all the time. The challenge is to make it feel real, feel something that you perceive, something that you can use as a tool. Who else would like to share?
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, so to me, I'll just say like, for instance, what's the opposite of rejection? It's
Yeah.
acceptance, right? So to me,
Yeah.
it's like, what does being accepted look like to me? For instance, I'll say it's like being listened to, being understood, being loved is like someone taking off their time to help me with a small task.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what I concentrate on, because one thing I always tell myself and my friend is, I'm not responsible for your own expectations of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Brainy. Yeah, absolutely. I have nothing extra to add to that. Thank you. Who else? One more person, then we can move to the next part.
Yeah, can I go?
Yes, Ndungi, go ahead.
For me, I think it will be I am more than enough. Every day I wake up and wash my face on that. When I look in that mirror, I'll be
Yeah.
like, I am more than enough.
Thank you. Thank you, Ndungi. That would be a powerful tool. Though I want to ask you for a specific counter argument to a specific thought resulting from a rejection, if that makes sense. So for example, let's say you're rejected romantically and you're thinking, I'm not handsome enough. I'm not as handsome as the other person they went for, or I'm not as beautiful as the other person they went for. What is the specific counter argument to that specific thought? So I am more than enough is you are trying to bolster your identity. That is like an overall, it's like an umbrella argument. But the specific argument, because you're going to face a specific rejection, what you're trying to do with the specific rejections is to respond to them and dissolve them before they are overgeneralized, before they are over personalized, before they are over exaggerated and made to feel permanent. So that for example, if it's a rejection at work, there are specific thoughts that occur to you. I hope that makes sense, Ndungi, and you can apply that as you create your counter arguments. Let's
Yeah,
go.
it does.
Yeah, thank you. The second way is to enhance your self-worth. Enhance your self-worth. Here is a very quick exercise, right? Here is a quick exercise. Take the first letter of your name. And some of you probably have names that, okay, let's take one of the letters of your names and write 3 positive attributes that start with that letter. This is an exercise I do all the time. So that today, because it's my birthday, I'm feeling magnificent, I'm feeling magnanimous, I'm feeling monumental. That is M. My M is the first letter in Mogire, right? This is an exercise that it's a stupid exercise, but it's also a powerful exercise, right? Write a couple of positive words that start with that letter. Elena, you are excellent. You are enviable. You are extraordinary. Rumbi, you are resplendent. Oh, I don't know whether you'll use Rumbi or Mukori, whichever. Yeah. So we have done a little bit of this before, right? It bolstering your self-worth is essentially bolstering your identity. You remember the six identity mindsets. Actually, let's just go through the identity mindsets, the 6 identity mind frames, and perhaps each of you could just give us one, name the mindset, and then just give us 2 statements under that mindset, and so that each of you names a different one. I think we have 6 of them, so let's see. Let's start with James. Start with one of the mindsets and give us 2 statements. And give us 2 statements that you think are true, that you actually feel are true right now where you are. James?
Okay. Well, I'll use I am deserving. Okay. So it will be I am deserving of love, and I am deserving of I don't know, progress.
Fantastic. That's it. As long as they feel true where you are right now, if you use those, that's how you bolster your self-worth. In addition to taking your name, I have probably like maybe 200 words that describe like positive words that are linked to my name. And I just do it as a game so that I would take I, and I is inspirational, infinite. Just I would take E and I'm like excellent, extraordinary, enviable, So it's an exercise, and it's O is outstanding. Yeah. It's an interesting exercise, and it allows me to think about those positive words. And somehow, some of those words stick. And then now the frame, these frames, I am deserving. So I love the one that you've done, James. I am deserving. Victor, which one will you go with?
I found two. I don't know so many. Victorious, virtuous, and I don't know.
Fantastic. That's great. Okay, which frame will you go with?
Words positive starting with V.
Yeah. Yes, and in terms of the frames, the identity frames, which one will you go with? Pick one of the identity frames we had covered, the 6 that we had covered, and give us 2 statements under whichever you pick.
Sorry, my internet was acting up. I don't know if
let's go with someone else. You will see what we are doing. Let's go with Judith. Pick one of the identity frames and give us 2 statements under. Judith is probably not close by. Ndungi, let's go with you. Okay, Elena.
I am saying no to whatever doesn't align with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And of the 6 identity mindsets, which of those would you give us, like 2 statements, 2 positive identity reinforcing statements from?
I am open to expansion, to growth. Yeah. And I'm capable of raising my standards.
Yep. Raising your standards. Oh, and that's the whole subject by itself. Thank you, Elena. Rainy?
You're welcome.
Rainy, you're muted. Sorry.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. One of the affirmation will be I'm deserving of healthy relationships and boundaries. And the second one will be I'm open to new possibilities of life.
I love it. Thank you. Ruby, have you caught wind of the bent of this exercise? Just give us what you can.
So with me, I came up with I'm living my best life now, and I am royalty, and I deserve the best.
Love it.
So from there, my takeaways were every day I want to live a life of thankfulness. I want to be a dreamer and live a life of that is limitless. I don't want to limit myself in terms of my health. I want to eat good food, dress well, and feel in that way that I'm actually living my best life now.
Yeah. Thank you, Rumbi. And it's a delight to have you join us today all the way from Zimbabwe.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the final way I was going to share in terms of dealing with rejection, the final way is plug in socially. You have to plug in socially. When rejection has happened, you have to have somebody you can speak to about it and speak about it in terms of what it felt. You have to specify how it feels. And it's not an intellectual specification. You have to truly describe what it feels. And give yourself permission to release it. And it's that physical. It is, you have to give yourself permission. And that's something that you have to get to a habit of saying that now I'm ready to let go of what I feel. I'm ready to let go of this lump in my throat. I'm ready to let go of the pain I feel in the pit of my stomach. Wherever that pain is, I'm done with this pain. It's now leaving. It's going. You have to connect socially, even if it means connecting with somebody who is not part of your social network. Let's make it normal when we have suffered a significant rejection, for example, a romantic breakup. Let's make it normal to go and speak with a therapist. Because that 1 hour speaking with a therapist, you have somebody who is non-judgmental listening to you, and they're giving you the opportunity to express, to put words to that pain. If that pain remains in there, you've never put words to it, it is hidden, it is in the dark. It's like this big dirty rat that just entered your house and it's in a room that has never been lit. Yet when you light, you come and switch on the light, that rat has to go away. Let's make it normal to find a friend to whom we can, in whose face we can cry. But this is important. Sometimes the crying we do, if it becomes necessary, ends up magnifying. It ends up magnifying. It ends up just being a description of what I feel. And sometimes when you describe what you feel all by itself, and that's where you stop, you re-experience what happened. For that, I do not believe in replaying past memories unless you are replaying them with the aim and the commitment and willingness to do something about it, to go beyond that memory. Because your brain doesn't know the difference between something you are replaying in your mind and something that is happening fresh. So every time you replay it, to the brain, it's like, oh, we have had 20 romantic rejections, and yet it was just one breakup. We've been fired 10 times from jobs, yet it was just one, right? We have had, we've been excluded from our social circle 15 times, yet it just happened once. But because you keep replaying it, every time you replay it, the brain thinks it's happening anew. Because the brain can't tell. The brain is just dealing with the electrical signal. The electrical signal, by the time it arrives in the parts of the brain that process rejection, it feels the same. Did you realize that when we are watching movies and somebody's about to be hit, something painful, we cringe, right? We cringe because our brain is receiving the same signal. We don't end up experiencing the pain, but we cringe because the signal is being processed the same way. So you have to find a social outlet. That's number one. That's a non-negotiable. You have to find a social outlet. And you need to find that social outlet as soon as possible. My strongest recommendation is go speak to a therapist, especially if you are in a new environment and you're really, really struggling to find your footing. You need somebody to listen to your thoughts in their entirety and for you to express your emotions. And you need somebody who knows what questions to ask you to get you to release the emotional underground current that is producing those thoughts. That's why it's your family is a great place, your friends are a great place, but it needs to be, if it's a friend, this friend needs to ask you questions to guide you. Because remember, when you are really, really, really in deep emotion, logic and common sense are not your best friends right then. They are not right there with you. That's the time when you can become very insensible. That's the time when aggression and anger can become a new pattern. I've seen examples where a wife discovers that the husband is cheating, and the children in that house have it rough for the next several months because she is angry and aggressive. The children don't know why. The children think it's something that they have done, right? And in that, at that time, it's not something she's going to process all by herself. And unfortunately, maybe she ends up discussing this with her friends, but her friend, that conversation with her friends does not touch the part that she needs to speak about to bring out so that she can release the pain. Because maybe she's speaking to her friends and she's like, I don't care about him. I don't care. I don't care where he goes. I don't care what time he comes home. You care what time he comes home. You will never stop caring what time he comes home. You care. If you didn't care, maybe you wouldn't be there. And the same thing to men. And here is this guy is dating this girl, and he hears that, oh, she went on a road trip with this other guy, and suddenly he is the manager at work, and he's shouting at everybody at work, and the people at work are like, we are not meeting the targets. It's not about them. It's just that he has not expressed it. So connect socially, but you have to connect in a way that enables you to explore the critical areas of the part which, if they are not addressed, then you will not get rid or overcome. Like you will not shine light the corners that the light needs to go so that you can get over this emotion. And so today's is a heavy session, and we've covered a couple of subjects this week that are of a similar bent. But maybe you haven't particularly experienced any explicit heavy emotional pain, but there are instances where this is happening, or your fear of rejection can hold you back from taking the actions you need. By having some of these tools and starting to practice them, then you can be more willing to take risks knowing that if you are rejected, you know what to do about it. If you are rejected, you will process it immediately, make sure you are not overgeneralizing it, you are not exaggerating it, and you will be empowered. You will be empowered to go beyond the rejection, to overcome that rejection. Assignment for today, continue monitoring your a tendency to judge. Just keep monitoring yourself, comparing, complaining, competing, and criticizing. Take that challenge I gave you, look at your name and see how many words you can come up with, which positive words that are based on those letters. And the aim is for you to do it over and over again. And then today, find time to do the identity frames, all of them from beginning to the end on a blank sheet of paper. Write down, I am deserving, but what are you deserving of? Specify things. Focus on specifying things that feel true to you. Because if you specify things that feel too far out, you're creating resistance. Specify things that feel true to you. We will pick this up tomorrow, and by Friday we will wrap up, and we will have a practical strategy takeaway, something to do routinely from the content that we've covered this week. And then next week, we will now be back to getting the foundation for setting goals for the rest of the year, so that by the end of this month, we will have a very clear plan about what you need to, where you need to go, you want to go, and where I would like to go, which for me starts today because it's my birthday, and this is like the beginning of a new year. So thank you for spending my birthday morning with me. We won't have time for reflecting right now. Please share in the WhatsApp group anything you've picked today. I think Elena and Ivy, you posted something yesterday, and I appreciate that. Just it helps you reflect on what you learned, and it also reinforces those learning points to other people. That will be it today from from the House of Mastery. This is Dr. Job Mogire. I look forward to see you tomorrow. I wish you a great time wherever you are. Goodbye.